Yo, what's going on, Nomads and Drifting Podcast listeners? I'm Brian,
And I'm Monica.
and welcome to the Backspace Nomads podcast, where we share our nerve for gaming, movies, and all the in between. On today's podcast, we are talking about subscription models coming to gaming, the most toxic gaming communities on the internet, and video game addiction. It is June 24th. This is episode 63 of the Backspace Nomads podcast. Let's start the show. Well, Monica, we took last week off because I was super sick, and I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. So how have you been?
Jones and man, I've been missing you.
Ooh.
I've been missing the cast. Welcome everybody. Welcome back home. I have been busy though, and oddly enough, in between all the gaps that I have found, I have filled those gaps up with some video games. Mainly Mario and Rabbids. I've been enjoying myself some more Mario and Rabbids. It's
so good.
It's really a fun game. I bought it because it was on sale.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just been very enjoyable, but I am getting to the point in the game where like I'm not completely done with it. I'm on the last world.
Ooh.
But despite being on the last world, I'm like ready for it to be done. So I hit that like point where I at first needed to play. And now I'm like, okay, like I see where we're headed. I'm good. I'm still going to finish it up, but I will be okay to end. But this is the first game that I've gone back to like go and collect things to make sure that I'm like getting all of the artwork and that type of stuff. I've actually put a lot of hours into this game. I would have beat it already if I hadn't gone back in the worlds to collect everything.
Well, you're a completionist. I appreciate that about you.
I'm normally not. That's what's so weird about this is normally I just don't care. I'm like, oh, I got 2 things out of 18. Great. I'm a winner. I can't believe I got 2. So this is different for me. This is different.
What's really going on in your life, Monica, that you need to... I love this game. I think I got it when it went on sale with you, and like I was excited to play a game other than Fortnite and talk about it.
Yeah.
And then I seen you post about it. I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
And you put up the tweet on there. I was like, all right, well, I guess it's cool. We're playing the same game.
You're just copycatting me.
I know. I can't even look cool anymore. I'm just like, man, I just can't do anything. Monica does it first, and then she tweeted about it first, and all the nomads know it's Monica's thing, and I'm just following her lead.
Yep. Like
always a bridesmaid. Just
never the bride.
I can't believe how fun that game is, man. It's like XCOM with training wheels. Like I think I sent that to you. It is so adorable. The rabbits are the original minions, and the minions are horrible compared to the rabbits because the rabbits are actually allowed to make like bad, like risky jokes and like not care at all.
I love Rabbids. I've always loved that franchise. I've had so much fun with it in the past. I mean, I've owned, I think, the majority of the Rabbid games. And their party games and everything. I used to play the hell out of those on when we first came out. The Rabbids game was one of the best ones I've ever played. It was a great game. And yes, the adult humor does exist. And sometimes in Mario plus Rabbids, it feels a little bit like, can this even exist alongside Mario?
It has a rubber duck with like the thing around his neck with the spikes, like an S&M.
It's a BDSM rubber duck, and the rabbit pulls it out of his butt in the beginning of the game. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like Princess Peach is watching this. She's so fragile.
She is.
Things, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm really surprised at how much I'm enjoying that game. Takes a lot to, keep me interested in a game other than the Fortnite right now.
Yeah.
And I actually got the game because I was trying to play Fortnite on Switch, and it was horrible to play that thing off the PC.
Yeah.
It was horrible. I can't believe how good it looked, but I was like, this is on sale, let's get it, and was completely addicted to it. I played it on like an airplane the entire time.
Yeah.
Everyone was staring at me. I don't know if they were like, is this grown man serious? Or I don't know if they were like jealous of me or something, but
they're probably just checking you out, Brian. Come on, you're a good looking
guy. I'll take the compliment. I think they're getting ready to make another one too. I think it did so well that like they're going to continue the franchise. They're hooked.
They really should. And also, I want to say, like, Peach is actually like a tough cookie in this. She fights. She says in this
No,
game,
spoiler,
we've
dude. I
talked
haven't been
me.
there yet.
We
Come
have.
on.
Oh, well, too bad. Catch up, man. We have talked so much crap about Princess Peach over the history of this podcast.
Yeah.
And this in this game straight up says, "Why don't you ever take me along? I want to fight." And she goes out. She's a badass. I'm actually still using her. And at first I was like, I'm not going to use Princess Peach, but I need her. She's a good character.
I use Luigi, man. Luigi's my bae.
Yeah.
Him on that sniper rifle from like distance up high. Ooh.
Ooh, dang. Well, I'm
Finally.
I have to talk about the other game that I've been playing, but
Let's do it.
But Rabid Yoshi is my bae because nothing's better than absolutely ridiculous Rabid Yoshi. It's so cute. It's so cute.
I can't wait to get him.
But I have been playing another game, also one that I introduced to you, Ryan, or at least started first. So, keeping on my trendsetter pathway here. But it's that Zombs Royale game, which is just like the free, crappy online. It's basically the only battle royale game that I think I could actually win in. Mainly because I'm playing probably against like 7 and 8-year-olds. But I am wrecking them. So I feel good about myself. So I've really just been on this like kind of like childlike gaming kick the last couple of weeks, and I might have found my zen.
That Zombs Royale game is actually fun. We played a couple of games together when you showed it to me. It's like a top-down internet browser like shooter, and it's just like it's true. Like you just get in there and destroy everybody. Like I think at first game I won.
Yeah.
I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Like who are these people?
It's
like are they middle-aged men who
too.
can't play it? It's on mobile now? Mm-hmm. Do you play it on mobile?
No.
Okay.
I'm an OG, man. So I only play on PC.
Oh man, Monica. You're so cool.
I know.
I'm gonna tweet about this and how cool Monica is.
Yeah, I'm the
coolest. The first one to say it now.
I'm the illest. Anderson Cooper told me. All right. So I also did something else while we were away from one another.
What'd you do?
It blends into our next segment. So I don't know if I should give it away, but I went on a quest. I traveled into the ghetto to go and experience.
I mean, you're in Ohio. It's not that far away.
To go and experience video game subscription services, but the original.
Ooh.
Yes.
The original.
Yes. So I'll let you take it from there because I feel like I want you to talk about this like as a blend, but
sure. Well, let's talk about subscription model because at E3, this was like one of the big things that I think most presentations touched upon. The next big phase in video game monetization, because they're no longer going to be shoving loot boxes down our throat because we hate them now, are subscription models. Every game studio is looking to do a subscription service. All the main platforms are looking to do this, where they charge you monthly to give you access to their titles. Unlimited access, I guess, would be the best way to put it. They put a title up there. You can play as much as you want for as long as you want. And then you just kind of put it away and you pay monthly for that. I guess privilege would be the best way to talk about it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about first, like where this comes from in terms of not actually owning a game. You kind of hinted at earlier when you were traveling on your quest. We used to do this. This used to be a good thing where we would go to Blockbuster or whatever rental services
Hollywood
you wanted
Video
to. Hollywood Video.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And you would just rent a video game. You would pay, $5 to $15 depending on what game it is, I guess. Rent it, play it, and then return it. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know. Do you miss that type of ownership of games, or do you kind of like actually owning them forever?
So I was a weird one. I rented movies. Sometimes I rent a movie like 20 times, which at that point I could have bought the DVD or the VHS. for those of you that are old enough to know what that shit is.
I have no idea what a VHS is, Monica,
Oh,
myself.
well, you know, old
Mm.
grannies like me, we know. But I used to go and sometimes rent movies over and over and over, but very
Yeah.
rarely would I rent games.
Mhm.
I have a brother, and my brother would sometimes rent games. I didn't do that as much. I liked owning it.
Yeah.
And I liked owning the game. People kind of tease me because I go out and I buy like the actual like game from the store. You know,
Yeah.
God of War came out and I was panicking because I'm like, I have to go find the game. And everyone's like, you can just download it. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I need the physical copy. So
Okay, call him.
yeah.
No problem. Just
My precious. So I don't know what I think that was like an Irish golem. I'm sorry about that. But
I
anyway,
don't have to apologize for a
yeah.
good Irish golem. I'm enjoying it.
So, but renting games for me, like it existed. I did not capitalize on it as much as I probably should have. Did you?
Okay. Renting games all the time.
Okay.
Um, and probably spent more money on late fees and stuff than than we probably would just bought the game. Because I grew up with two other brothers who were massive gamers like myself, like early
Mhm.
age, getting into the deep like RPGs and stuff, like 70 hours of Chrono Trigger. I can remember not just like renting games, but renting like the special peripherals, like the guns and stuff that you would do to play like the laser games at home and stuff, like Duck Hunt. And there was I think it was like Time Cop or something like that.
Mhm.
So I used to rent games all the time, and I really have like a fond memory of it, like walking down the aisles of the game like place, and like there's a smell in the carpet for some reason that only exists within a video game store or movie store, and like seeing like you see the package, right, and you see, all right, well I see they have Chrono Trigger.
Mhm.
Let me lift up the box and see if there's an actual game thing behind it, and
Oh
like
yeah.
sometimes people would swap them out just to mess with you. They'll still like, oh man, there's one left of this game. They get there like, no, it's just Wave Runner. And you're like, no one plays Wave Runner. That's a boring game. So I miss them. I think it was like a very good idea because there are games that like, buying a game is expensive. It's, 50 to 60 bucks. You might not like it. Will the place take the game back if you didn't like it? It's all up in the air, but you can pay 15 bucks, rent that game
Yeah.
for the weekend, hate it and turn it back in and just like despise your life while you're driving away from Blockbuster. So
Yes.
I did like it. I enjoyed it.
So what's crazy is since that time, our youth, Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, almost every single, chain uh game or video rental place has gone out of business.
Yeah.
It's either completely wiped out or they have like one or two locations. It's
Mhm.
it's kind of insane. It is the dinosaur extinction of like the crocodile survived, but like everything else died off. Like that's pretty
Yeah.
much what we're looking at. And I actually happen to live in an area where the number one video game rental brick and
What?
mortar locations still are in existence.
Oh my
It's
God.
called Family Video.
You're in the land of legend over there.
I am. And
Family
so
Video.
Family Video, and there's actually multiple locations, and they are the biggest chain now of video game rental places because nothing else exists
How many
anymore.
are there? Like two?
No, there's like in my area, I could have driven within like 15 to 30 minutes to at
Yeah.
least 8 of them.
What?
Yes. They still
You guys
exist.
know the internet exists over
It
there.
is the crocodile of gaming. It is, or
Oh my
of
God.
video game and video rentals. It is the crocodile. It
Yeah.
survived the apocalypse. It survived the great doom.
That's
So,
insanity.
so I went on an expedition for this podcast for journalistic excellence to
Yeah.
go find out exactly what's up with brick and mortar rental places.
All right.
And I made the drive. It was a great drive.
What'd you
Smack
listen
dab
to?
just picked the location that was the closest to me. As I was driving, I was like, oh, wow, I am in a really bad area.
This
This
is
is
surprising close to my place.
this is Oh my goodness, this is horrible. And I found the location. There were 2 cars in the parking lot. One for sure belonged to the person that owned it, that was working there that day,
Yeah.
and 2, the sole other person shopping for a game or a video to rent. And let me just tell you, I spoke with the owner, John. Great man.
I love John.
Yeah, John was great. Um, and similarly to the crocodiles, how they now thrive, I'm
Uh-huh.
curious to see if John and his family video will eventually thrive as well. Because there are some great deals at Family Video, let me tell
Is
you.
there?
Okay.
Tell me all about them.
So I was talking with John, and he said that the gaming segment was actually a pretty big area for them. They have an entire
Sure.
room dedicated to it. I took some photos. I can put them up on the Backspace Nomads channel. An entire room dedicated to it. It's called the game room. It's very bright. There's a director's chair in it. I don't know why, because there's not a director's chair where the movies are, but there's a director's chair where the games are. But in general, they did have a ton of games available, including new releases.
Yeah.
And so I took a look around, and I was creepy, and I was taking photos with my phone, and the owner was probably like, what is this girl doing? And then finally I went up to him, I started talking to him to find out what the pricing looked like.
Yeah.
And we can relate this. We can relate this to like what other people are going to be charging. But let me
Okay.
tell you that when you first sign up, it's, you just get a movie card. It's free. You don't have to pay to have like a subscription to this place. You just get your movie
Okay.
card. And for your first month, you get 50% off any rental of a game.
Okay.
The majority of the games were buy one or rent one, get one free.
Ooh.
And for 5 days, you can rent a game for 5 days for $7.
Mm.
So technically 2 games, depending on the game that you pick out for $7, you can bring those home. And as long as you knock the game out in that amount of time, then it would really be $3.50.
That's not a bad deal at all, I'll be honest with you.
Right.
Because like, if you got a couple 3 nights in a row, you can knock out most video games in like a solid 3-night span.
Right. Yep. Most of them, not all.
Yeah.
But still, that 50% off is a big deal. Now, that's only for the first 30 days, but wait.
Tell me more.
It's $10 to renew the 50% off month over month.
Oh, okay.
So you can pay the $10 and get, if you're playing a lot of games, if you're going through a lot of games, you can pay the $10. I don't think that would necessarily work out for me with my schedule, but it was interesting. Anyway, so I talked to him, and I was like, look, all these companies are coming out with subscription services. Like, what do you think that means for you? And he's like, well, hopefully it means I get to stay in business. But I mentioned to him, like, hey, if all of these different companies decide that you have to pay a subscription in order to play their game, the physical copy could become valuable again. Being able to go get the physical copy could become valuable again, because subscriptions over the span of tons of different companies could get very expensive.
Yeah.
And then he just got really happy.
You're making people's day over there, Monica.
But I mean it. I really think that there is an element of this where he was like, oh, I hope so, and he was, we talked about a few different things, but I think there's an element of like, if everyone goes towards subscription models, the physical copy becomes valuable. The local location becomes valuable again.
Because in my later years, whatever, I still rent games or go buy games and stuff. And I love the digital format just because it's so convenient for me. And like, I just want games given to me. Like, I got fast internet, I can download it, give it to me. But I do remember the feeling of me having like the video game in hand and then like renting it and showing up to my friend's house and like walking in and be like, look what I got. Gonna kick your ass in some FIFA tonight. Like, you better pay up, bud. We're doing waiters tonight. Like, having that box in your hand and the CD and stuff, Like there is a feeling of physicality that like feels good.
Mhm.
Um, so there might be a place for those because it's like you said, all these things are going to cost us money.
Mhm.
You know, are you going to want to subscribe to EA, Xbox, PlayStations? Bethesda's probably going to do one. Like there's going to be a multitude of services. When right now we kind of already pay for just being gamers.
Yeah.
So, because in my mind, you know, my monthly expenses on gaming right now, I play Fortnite most of the time, which is like, you know, free to play, but I'm spending about $40 a month on in-game purchases because I'm just a little fangirl and I want the latest and greatest skin.
Yeah.
Um, you know, Mario versus Rabbids ratted me like $30. So I'm spending like 50 to $60 a month on gaming, I think.
Mhm.
And I'm just a person who really plays like one game a month. If I'm playing like multiple games a month, you know, maybe $80 would be where I'd be sitting around a month. What about you?
I think my games expenditures is different month to month.
Such a
So I
businesswoman.
feel like I've got to look at this from a yearly basis. Like,
Mhm.
what have I spent thus far this year? We're about halfway through the year, or we are halfway
Mhm.
through the year, and like, where do I currently stand? And if I take off the fact that I bought a Switch, so the actual cost of the Switch, I'm not including that.
Yeah.
I have easily spent over $500 in gaming. And that
Ooh.
is, yes.
Okay.
And that is without me being as active playing games as I was the year before. And God forbid, I don't even want to look
Yeah.
at what I spent back then.
So
So
you're clocking around like what, $80 a month maybe?
probably, yeah.
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 Okay.
And I think it's because when I purchase a game, I'm normally purchasing on like during sales, like
Yeah.
Steam will come out with a sale and I'll bulk purchase. And
Mhm.
that I over purchase. I don't even end up, playing all of those games. So renting changes that, right? Because
Yeah.
if I was renting or whatever, that would adjust for me. Instead, I'm just paying for games and then they're just sitting in a library somewhere. Um, but then I did get the Switch, so I want games on the Switch. I got PlayStation. I have my PlayStation, and I had to
Mhm.
play Game of War, and I also have wanted to purchase other games. Monster Hunter World. I probably only put 20 hours into that, but I
Yeah.
got it for $60.
Mhm.
It adds up fast. It adds
Mhm.
up so fast.
This is an expensive hobby that we have upon ourselves.
Yep.
So let's go over some of the numbers uh, from the companies and like what they're throwing out, how much is going to take for you to subscribe to them. The first one that we pulled up was a service called Jump, which is a indie game service. For $4.99 a month, you can have access to a slew of indie game titles that you probably won't be playing without this service. EA Access is going for another $4.99, and they're promising the latest titles from EA will be available to you at launch for $4.99. That was at the press conference. Um, PS service, PlayStation is
PlayStation
PlayStation
Now.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's running. That's going to run you $19.99 a month or $100 annually. Uh, the EA one was going to be like 20 something dollars for a year, $25 for a year of purchases.
Yep.
So right there with like, you know, if you're playing indie games, you want access to EA games and you got a PlayStation service, that's going to run you, you know, $30 a month.
$30 a month, but here's the catch. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the games within these subscriptions are crossover. So you're
Okay.
getting access to a lot of the same games. So what
Mm-hmm.
you're paying for with these subscriptions is access to the games that you want to play that are like maybe PlayStation exclusive. So they're only going to
Right. Okay.
allow the PlayStation Now to will allow PlayStation exclusive games on PlayStation Now. Here's the
Mm-hmm.
problem with this though. You can sign up for a PlayStation Now, and as far as I can tell, as from doing the bit of digging that we did, you're not able to play God of War currently.
Right.
That's the game you want to be playing. So you're
Yeah.
paying $19 to be playing games that were in existence in the past rather
Mm-hmm.
than paying for them. And what are
Yeah.
you really going to be playing? You know, it is kind of similar to walking into a store and just picking out some random game to play that night.
Yeah.
But I think when you walked into a store and you picked a game out, you're at least going to turn it on. I don't
Sure.
know with PlayStation Now and with these other subscriptions if you're gonna really try it. I would be curious to find out from our listeners who has a subscription and what they're doing with it, how often they're
Right.
using it.
Mhm. I do remember like I used to have like the Xbox Gold to get online or whatever, and there were like tons and tons of games. They're like, oh man, look at all these games you can play. I'm like, yeah, those look fantastic, bro. Like I really want to play, some scooter extreme game. Like I'm not really into it. My bad. I used to do GameFly too, which we got on the show prep. I did do GameFly when I was probably like 21 or 22 when it first came out.
Yeah.
Interesting model. One game out at a time, $9.99 a month.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy that. I did like use that one to its fullest extent. But let's get into what like subscription model kind of means for not just monetary terms, but like what would it mean for game production? How do you think it's going to affect an actual studio's production of games?
So we were talking a little bit about this, and I think that what's interesting is right now the subscriptions are not convincing enough to
Yeah.
me. Um, but they're testing it out. More and more companies are testing it out. So there has to be an intent there. And my guess would be that the intent is that if you can get people fed enough, and if you, let's say you could play God of War on the subscription model for PlayStation Now,
Hmm.
if you could play it, what does that equate to? Um, is that a higher price? Let's say that's the only way you could play God of War was signing
Yeah.
up for a
Yeah.
subscription. What does that mean? And I think what's really interesting there is that if you're in a subscription, every subscription known to man exists because they're just hoping that you kind of forget about it and keep paying for it,
Yep.
right? Like that is why subscription take place because a
Hmm.
handful of people haven't used the thing for 4 to 6 months, but it's still coming out of their automatic withdrawals.
Yep.
If they get enough people that are feeling like they have to subscribe, that they have to, my question for this is, does it slow down game production or does it actually speed it up? Because people
Mm.
are hungry because of the subscription. My guess though would be that it's actually going to slow it down because
Hmm.
people are subscribed, that money's rolling in, and they're going to only have to hit a specific quota to keep that subscription model going and to ignite
Yeah.
the lost user base.
Yep. And I'm going to agree with that. And I think it's kind of a good thing. Like, will these studios have a time to make a better game? Probably. And I'm kind of okay with that. And I think where we're going to run into issues as like a consumer base is when we get into like the EAs, because Ubisoft is going to have one. Bethesda probably will follow suit. They're going to be strangleholding these games and these big titles from PlayStation. They're not going to want, Fallout 76 or whatever being on the PS Network's subscription service. They want that to be exclusive to their service.
Mm-hmm.
DICE is going to want Battlefield to be exclusive to their service.
Mm-hmm.
So now instead of having this one big like hub, where I'll pay for the PlayStation one and then I'll have access to everything. No, you're gonna have to pay for EA's, you have to pay for Ubisoft's, and whatever developer out there wants to have their own service, you're paying for their service, and they're gonna limit your choice as a consumer, which is huge for me within this industry because the one thing that this industry loves to do is take choice away from you. That's why at the Xbox conference, they announced like 13 new developers that are specific Xbox exclusives.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's just for the titles? Probably for the subscription service that they're planning.
Yeah.
They're probably buying these places up in hopes that their subscription service is the one you buy and not PlayStation's.
It's interesting too. I personally, like, if we're going to answer the question of whether or not we like this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm very hesitant towards it. Not because of the subscription service model itself,
Mm-hmm.
but the powerhouses are going to start this process. And what does that mean for the smaller wheelhouses? Do they have to be acquired by the powerhouses, the ones that have all of these subscription services, the ones that have the people that are already paying? If that becomes the new model for games, you're not going to want to go to a store where you can only buy indie games because those are the only places you can get hard copies anymore. And
Yeah.
so it's opening up an entire, I don't want to say scary, I want to say
I'm saying
interesting
scary.
can of worms that I'm like, whoa, are we as consumers once again going to be completely taken advantage of?
Oh yeah.
Oh, probably. Yeah.
Yeah. And like if you're a smaller studio, you gotta be nervous because why would someone buy your game when they're already chucking out 40 bucks a month for all these different other services? Why would they just buy a single standalone version of your game? You're gonna have to sell your soul to Xbox and these subscription services to get people to even look at your game.
Yeah.
And who knows like what kind of money is gonna be flowing back to the developers. Like it's gonna give Xbox and PlayStation and the big developers even more control of this industry. And it's subscriptions like are scary, man. They're scary.
Yeah.
I used to do a loot box thing, whatever, and I was like, oh man, look at these little doodads coming. This is great. And like I added it up one month. I was like, I'm paying so much money like every year for all this nonsense I don't even use.
Yeah.
That's going to be gaming industry. We're going to be looking back in 2020 and being like, what were we drunk in 2019? Like, what did we do? What was going on back then?
Yeah. I also just really don't think that it's going to open up to better games. I think we're
Mm,
going to be even more, you know, um, captive. We're going to have to be a captive audience to whatever they'll put out for us. And
yeah.
so I think the competition will still exist between the development houses, but I mean, they kind of already, you saw it at E3. That's just title of game 4, title of game 7, title of game 8. And I think that they already own some names that are going to continue to exist.
Hmm.
And I think that the creative aspect that has already in some ways been stripped from gaming as a whole is going to continue.
Yeah.
And even more so within subscription models. But like most things, you get into this funky spot and everyone's like, this is horrible. And then you just rip it all apart and you build it back up. And that might be a powerful experience, but that will be years down the road.
Definitely. Definitely. Well, speaking about people complaining and saying things are horrible, let's change gears a little bit. And let's start talking about toxic gaming communities. This is kind of a topic that we kind of were like kind of talking about a little bit, and then we seen a like Reddit post. We're like, man, people are talking about this. Let's see what's going on. Toxic gaming communities is probably one of the funniest, saddest subjects I think we've ever talked about covering to me because you don't have a choice. If you want to be a gamer, you are subject to the community of the game that you love, and you
Yes.
have no choice. Like, you cannot be the change you want to see in the world. You have to be the world. Like, whatever the world is, you have to lean into it or it's going to eat you alive.
Yeah. Agreed. I also think that when I was younger, I was probably an active element within the toxic gaming culture that we are now hating on. I definitely was a bit more of a punk
Yeah.
than I am now. What as a female, playing with voice, especially back in the day, it was
Mhm.
horrendous. But I didn't get sad by it. I just loved harassing. Like anything you threw at me, I threw back at you like 10 times over,
Yeah.
So
Oh, I know.
so I probably have helped a lot of guys hate women further. Um
The incels love you.
yeah.
Uh, what is the most toxic community you've ever been a part of within gaming?
Okay, so
I love
that's
how you're
really
gearing up. You're like teeing up on
that
this one.
let me take that deep inhale. I feel like I've been a part of so many toxic gaming communities,
Yeah.
and maybe it's partially because I'm female, but I feel like I've been a part of so many toxic gaming communities that it's hard to pick the number one.
Yeah,
It's like
sure.
I love y'all equally. They're all just toxic equally.
Yeah.
But I do have some more recent experiences within,
Mhm.
I would say, the past like 5 years, and those are the ones that I'm going to focus on. Um, The first one was I was playing Terraria, great little game, great little
Ooh.
indie game. I would not say that the Terraria community is toxic, but within the Terraria community, a few of them recommended that I try this other game out. It's a massively multiplayer game, shooter.
Okay.
That's like this quirky little like indie feel to it, and it's called Realm of the Mad God. And
Ooh.
keep in mind, I was streaming at this time, and with Terraria, I would let people come on and play with me, and I'd actually let them on my Discord. And these were complete strangers. They were just allowed to come on and play, and we had fun. And I never had a super poor experience with that.
Mm.
Within one night of playing Realm of the Mad God, I was set up against anything I had expected. Um, Similarly, I would allow people to play, and I'm thinking, oh, look, this game's so adorable. It's so cute. And if a couple people told me, hey, this community is very different, be careful. And when
Yeah.
you have chat telling you, hey, be careful, you should really
We
pay
have Twitch
attention.
chat saying
Yeah.
this is toxic.
Yes. I had these guys. No, I was harassed. I was desperate. As soon as I joined the game, an influx of viewers came in, and a handful of them were saying atrocious things to me. But I recognize that these were all 12-year-olds. So it's just like, Tourette's. So I
Sure.
went ahead and just like, okay, you guys don't know how to handle this situation. So it's fine. And a couple of them were like, hey, don't talk to her like that. Don't do that. That's not right. And then later in the game, they were like, can we play with you? And me being the friendly Monica that I am, I said,
Oh
sure.
God.
And I let them onto my Discord.
Mistakes were made.
I have never been so uncomfortable in my life. I definitely had to kick them off, but there were things said like, Monica, can we sniff your panties? I was like, oh my God, I can't believe
How's that toxic?
I can't believe I let you in here. And they were just, arguing. Somebody's like, don't say that to her. Cause I'm pretty, I was like, no, what? No, you can't. Like, get out of here. And then they started arguing. It was really, really bad. But within 24 hours on this adorable little game, everything went to hell.
I think the most toxic one I've ever been a part of. And I started off trying to be a ray of light within this community. It would have to be League of Legends.
Yeah, right. There's no ray of lights there.
No, and like it is. I don't know what it is. The first game I ever played, like I didn't know what I was doing. I pick a champion. Don't know. I just start going somewhere, and someone starts pinging me and like pinging me and hitting the thing and like ping, 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 and they're like, there's like you're trash, you're trash. I'm like, what the? What's, I don't even know how to type in the game. I don't even know what button to hit to start typing to talk trash back to them. There is something about the MOBA community and League of Legends being kind of the lighthouse of it's going to draw the worst of the worst. Where those people like it is life and death, and the minute you join, you are on a teeter totter to where it's like balance, balance. You do something a little bit wrong, and there's four people jumping on top of you, telling you just how horrible you are as a human being, and making you question like the very reality that your parents like brought you up in, that this world is nice.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has to do with the fact that like MOBA games typically go on for like 40 minutes. So even like the slightest thing, it's like wasted 40 minutes because this guy, picked some dumb champion, went, top lane with them. And I'm gonna have to spend the next 30 minutes of my life dealing with this. I don't know. Have you ever played League of Legends or like a MOBA and seen those people?
I have. I did try to get into League of Legends. I was playing with a friend who was teaching me, and it was too much for me.
Yeah.
I felt too guilty because of the response to my gameplay.
Yeah.
To even learn. But I will say that the best response in League of Legends when people are yelling at you is just to say okay over and over. What the fuck's wrong with you, blah blah? Okay. Don't go up there, and then you don't do it. Okay. Why didn't you go up here? Okay.
See, we should have known each other back then, because I tried to reason like, hey man, I don't know what I'm doing. this is my first game. I'm sorry. And they're like, oh, this is your first game. I get placed with you. Awesome. Good job. You're
Yeah.
trash.
And
Like,
then you just say, okay.
see,
And
okay.
okay is the best response
Okay.
to everyone because it's, oh, don't you fucking okay me.
Stop being toxic, Monica. I'm just trying to sit here and be a podcast, okay? This is my first podcast I've ever done. I don't know what I'm doing, okay?
Okay.
uh,
So
what is it about the gaming? What makes this toxic? What makes a toxic community?
I don't know. I think it's just a sense of entitlement, a sense of for one, you have to be able to, well, normally you have to be able to interact with other players.
Okay.
And even then, the interaction with those players has to be on a competitive nature.
Okay.
Not a like I would say that World of Warcraft is less so.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
Because you're not the competitive nature doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, Black Desert, I would say it's not a toxic community really at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a MMO, but you actually don't even need anyone else to partake in it. You're not
Mm-hmm.
really doing raids in the same sense. So there's not a lot. So really it's just a handful of people that want to win at something.
Right.
And it's going to create a horrible experience.
My thoughts on it is because I play Fortnite so much, and it's like the least toxic gaming experience I think I've ever had in my life. I think it's because there's a lack of like communication between the players in game. You can't communicate. You don't have a chat. You don't have a voiceover, like a voice IP thing that you're talking to other people. When you play Fortnite, you're there by yourself. There's a voice chat with your teammates, but you can click that thing off real quick if you really want to.
Yeah.
For the most part, it is you and yourself, and like you're just interpreting what everyone else is doing because of in-game interactions. And I play a little bit of PUBG, and PUBG kind of gets a little toxic, but I definitely played a lot of H1Z1, and H1Z1 was miserable.
Yes.
Miserable. Anytime you killed somebody or they killed you, they were instantly on the mic talking trash and all this, the infamous like China #1 thing that comes from like H1Z1, I think.
Yeah.
Like just screaming China #1 into the microphone. And there's none of that in Fortnite. It's so positive that like I get killed. I'm like, oh man, that little buster, he got me.
Yeah.
Man, he's so nice. God, he killed me so good. I love the Fortnite like community. Like all we have to do is stop talking to each other in game. Like it's not the promised land. All they want to do is promote like you're gonna be able to talk to each other in this game finally. That's where we went wrong. That's where we went wrong. You do not want that.
I agree that talking to one another in game causes a problem, but I think that there's another layer to unveil here, and that goes along with ego. Because another game, and I'll talk about this really quickly, is Dark Souls.
Okay.
Dark Souls is a very helpful community of elitists.
Yeah.
And you are either going to accept their advice, you are either going to eat their advice up and love them for giving their advice, or God, you are a pleb and you can just get the hell out.
Yeah.
And that's not happening in game. That's happening in the forums. That's happening when people are watching in the Dark Souls community. There's an elitist element there too. So I think that while talking to one another is harmful, it's a competitive game, right? You're talking to one another within a competitive game. I think that there is, anytime you get to feel significantly better than others, you're going to always have a couple jerks in there trying to ruin the fun for everybody.
I think it's interesting to bring up Dark Souls too, because it kind of leads into the last subject we're going to kind of tap into tonight. I think that the more addictive a game can get, the more toxic its community kind of involved or becomes, because that addiction feeds to like I know better than everyone else. I play this game, anywhere from 60 to 80 hours a week. Listen to me. Like I know best. When you're playing MOBAs, you're playing with people who do play like 40 hours a week, and they're addicted to it. And that's why they get so mad about it. Because there's a official statement came out from the World Health Organization Video game is now officially classified as a disease. We made it. Good job, gamers.
Yay!
We're official. We're on the world stage now.
We are. It's being added to the ICD-11, which the ICD-10 was updated in, I think, the 90s. So it's a big deal. It's actually a big deal because just to give you guys some perspective on this, anything that's added to the ICD-11 by WHO, or World Health Organization, basically ends up being, it's an element that then the health insurance companies, healthcare, they all have to treat and recognize the elements that are in the ICD-11. So now video game addiction is in there, which means that there has to be some type of response to it from a treatment perspective.
Yikes. I do not want to have to show up to a doctor and tell them I'm officially addicted to like video games. Like that's going to be on my list now. That's going to make the chart when they're looking and like, oh, okay, all right. Overweight, potentially diabetic, addiction to video games, huh? Well, maybe this is going to solve everything right here, Brian. I don't know why they've done this to us. Why would they add video games to an addiction list? Can we... Social media on there? Does social media make the ICD-11? Are they just stringing us out there by ourselves?
They didn't. And there's been a lot of debate around this. There's been a lot. Now, I want to say this. We have had a lot of people on this broadcast, especially early on. Mm-hmm. We had invited a lot of people on. And a lot of the stories ended up resulting in it seemed like almost obsessive. Not all of them, but a lot of them. It was like almost obsessive response to video games. We heard a lot of stories that did equate to that. Yeah. I know for me personally, I have 100% gotten to points in my life where I was playing video games at the difficulty that created difficulty in other elements of my life. So real quick, I'm not going to read the entire element here, but gaming disorder, it's called gaming disorder, is characterized by a pattern of persistent or recurrent gaming behavior, which may be online or offline, manifested by impaired control over gaming, continuation or escalation of gaming despite the occurrence of negative consequences. The behavior pattern is of sufficient severity to result in significant impairment in personal, family, social, educational, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. It may be continuous, episodic, or recurrent. So this is the thing, right? I was reading more about this and people's response to it. And I do think that gaming addiction exists, but I agree with you. Okay. Social media addiction exists as well. So what weird door is this opening? And why is it starting with video games?
Because we're an easy target. We are an easy target. Like, I don't understand why video games are painted so negatively. If we had a canvas in front of us and we're painting pictures for 5 to 6 hours at a time, or we were reading a book for 5 to 6 hours at a time, everyone would be so happy for us. Like, man, they're really following what they love to do, man. They're just painting and painting. Nothing's going to stop them. They just love to do it. They love to paint. They like to put flowers on canvas. Mm-hmm. But the fact that we're playing video games for some reason, society they don't understand that it's not just about the addiction. And look, like you can use anything in life to get away from your problems, right? Video games are just one of those things that can fill that void for you. But it's because they don't understand why we love the games we do, why we feel the urge to play them more instead of sitting across from our family and staring at each other and not talking for another 2 hours at a family get together you don't want to be at.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why we love video games, because there's story in them and there's art and there's all these things put together to like be interactive with you. And if you don't play it, you don't get it. And I know I sound like an addict right now, but I swear there's something to there. It's the medium we do or that we use that is such a problem, because it's not the norm and hasn't been because video games are so new.
Yeah. So I have more mixed feelings on this. One, I do feel like this is just an open door for more politicians, more thought
Yeah.
to be put into video games as being a negative thing. And I am 100% in disagreement that video games are negative inherently.
Mhm.
Um, However, I do think that there are people out there whose escapism or addictive personalities are
Right.
able to really hone in on gaming and not be seen as a problem, even though
Mhm.
it's 100% negatively impacting their life in multiple ways. And again, I want to say here that a lot of the feelings on this are that you don't have to be playing 60 hours a week or 80
Right.
hours a week or 120 hours a week to be addicted. You can be addicted and only be playing 2 hours a week. But if those 2 hours a week you're playing and you're avoiding something that is really important to your health or to your well being, your general well being, that's what they're saying is addictive. That's when you're an addict. It has nothing to do with how often you play. It has to
Right.
do with if you're putting off other elements of your life in order to play. So, for instance, you're supposed to go to work, but instead you get really high. They would consider that
Then I go to
addiction.
work.
Here, yeah, then
Oh.
you go to work. Here, you're supposed to go to work, but instead you start playing a video game and you show up late.
Right.
I don't know. I do think that people need help in those instances, but I also feel like at least in the United States, most health insurance comes with some sort of assistance towards counseling or whatever. So you already kind of
Uh,
get access to the things.
right.
So it feels a little bit like a dig.
It is a dig. And it is like being addicted to video games, right? Or like wanting to play video games, however you want to classify it. It's a symptom of something else. I just don't play video games, or like one for me, it's my job now, right? So like I'm a horrible example. But these people who don't want to go to work and instead want to sit down and play video games is because the video games gives them agency, it gives them function, it gives them something interesting to do.
Okay.
Maybe the problem is that they have to go to work and work at a meaningless job and do nothing with their time for 8 hours besides some like monotonous job. How is a video game like taken away from that?
Yeah.
Like there's another problem that's underlying within like this growing like uneasiness in our society, right?
Right.
We're all becoming increasingly useless to each other because of automation, all these robots, everything's becoming more efficient. Our jobs don't matter because other people are doing them now in other countries. We don't have function in this country anymore. There are people who just, you know, they don't there's people who like love to do construction jobs because they feel and like mining jobs because they feel like they're doing something with their time. There is a, you know, I'm going to do this now. I see the outcome. It's a function. There's agency there.
Hmm.
But instead, like it's why we have a massive opioid crisis, right? Is because stuff like this. Except there's people who are finding their outlet in video games instead of opioids. So I hate that like video games are being used as this thing. Like, well, this is just an addiction. Well, no, it's there's a different thing there, and this is
Yeah.
just a outlet for that. And how dare the WHO, who they have a couple of years before this officially gets put in, like 2022, I think, as they said, when it's going to be like officially official, like let out to everybody. They have some corrections to make in the next few years, Monica. All right. They got 4 years to get this right because we shouldn't be on a list. We shouldn't be on a list.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it is misplaced. They do have some time. I think that the pushback is already starting to formulate. I think the gaming community needs to be aware of this, though. And while it might open up the door to considering gaming as a negative, a occasionally negative response to handling life issues, I think that that relates to elements of depression, anxiety, other things that need to be worked on, not just don't play video games. Like you said, I really liked what you said about it, being agency. Um, Video games as a whole are not problematic.
Mhm.
There are probably underlying causes for that escapism. And I know when I have heavily invested in gaming and avoided other elements, I was definitely depressed at that time. And gaming was a way to coax myself and make myself feel better. So it's just interesting. It's out there. I mean, love to hear what our listeners think on it.
Comment
if they
sections.
feel like they've had gaming disorder and and whether and what they think about this this new addition, possible new addition. There's still time, but new addition to the ICD-11.
Definitely. Drop some stuff in the comment sections below. Hit us up on Twitter at Backspace Nomads if you got stuff for this, or backspacenomads@gmail.com if you want to fan mail it to us. But that's going to do it for episode 63 of the Backspace Nomads. We'll be back next week with episode 64. It's going to be a fun time. You should come around.
Yeah.
See you guys later. Join us. Become addicted. Bye, everybody.